sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
We got a ways to go with our local media to report on our basketball team. When I kind of sit there and I play 5 freshmen for about 14 consecutive minutes, and the headlines is that we got smashed by Virginia Tech, I'm a little disappointed. That's the direction that our media uses that covers our team, not some guy from Idaho or something, to represent our basketball program. But that's your right. I respect it. I hope you respect the fact that I don't like that that's the way it's covered, but it's okay.
Frank Martin in mid-season form with the season about to tip off.
Draw a line in the sand.
Friday
right
night,
off the top.
already not happy.
I liked his line that he
to
had.
some degree. He's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, I think. I mean, he's having a little bit of fun there. But,
I'm tired, Phil.
Yes.
I like the line he had later on where he said, I haven't had a drink in 11 years, and I have a bottle of scotch with my name on it for scheduling Wofford to lead off the season.
Well, that's not a real smart move. I mean, new team at South Carolina, Wofford in their new building.
He said it felt like a good idea a year ago when he had his team going to the Final Four. I don't know if he likes it that much now because of what he's got around him now.
Mike Young's a heck of a coach, and Wofford will be ready. That should be an exciting game. You're going to be there for that.
I will. We will broadcast the first part of the show from the brand new Jerry Richardson Indoor Stadium in Spartanburg.
We got a chance to walk through that back during the our tour.
Magnificent building.
Building. They still had some work to do, but I mean, obviously it's ready to go now. It's been used already for their volleyball competition, so in basketball practice and things like that. So Wofford's got a great new basketball building.
And that frightens me because I lived in Spartanburg when they opened the other
Ben
arena
Johnson,
when it was new. Yeah,
Ben Johnson. Yeah, well, listen, when Ben Johnson was open, Wofford probably was still NAIA, and that's all they needed.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Good to have Pro back with us. He's been doing other things the last couple of nights, so he's with us now. Will Pelagic, Phil Kornbluth, Brian Leonard. We are full of it tonight. I mean, really.
Every night.
What makes tonight any different, Corn?
We're loaded. We're loaded up. Talking about drinking a bottle of scotch, as Frank was earlier today. We're loaded. M&M boys will be here at 6:30. Tonight we debut, and I'm excited about this. Coaches, basketball coaches in our state, Frank Martin, love to complain that we don't give basketball, round ball, enough attention. Of course, we have here on Sports Talk always paid attention, but we're going to go another step forward tonight as we debut a brand new basketball segment similar to our M&M boys. We're pairing up a former Clemson standout guard against a former Gamecock standout guard. We're calling it Give and Go. A little basketball lingo there.
We're going baseline to baseline with the give and go.
Well, I kind of like that, baseline to baseline. We've been toying with the name. Give and go, now baseline to baseline.
Coast to coast.
Coast to coast. Jordan Roper.
Shake and bake.
For the Tigers. Remember Jordan Roper just a couple of years ago?
You don't like shake and bake?
I like shake and bake. Sharp shooting left-hander, leaper. And then one of the all-time great leapers at South Carolina, another high-scoring guard, Aaron Lucas. So Jordan Roper for the Tigers, Aaron Lucas for the Gamecocks. They'll join us a little bit after 7. Once we get finished with football, we'll move them into the 6:30 slot on Wednesday. Perfect for the season because Wednesday night's a big basketball night, and they'll break down their teams. They'll break down each other's team. We'll talk about they'll break down the other's team, and they'll talk basketball in general. So looking forward to that. Ralph Patterson coming up in our second hour, the Newberry Athletics Director. Got a big event involving Danny Ford and George Rogers tomorrow night.
Something we all can love.
Oh, absolutely. Over at Newberry. By the way, I was talking with Chuck Reedy today. He'll be with us tomorrow night. And we'll give you more details on this, but there is a big deal being put together to honor Danny Ford in January in Columbia that you're going to want to be a part of. It's going to be a big, big celebration of Danny Ford's coaching life. At Clemson,
this
in
is your
particular.
life.
Why am I not surprised after hearing Chuck spout on it last week?
I think the two are related, to be quite honest with you. And I think they weren't real pleased with the so-called
thrown together
recognition of Danny Ford last time, and they have some people led by Chuck Reedy and Clyde Wren and others have stepped up and said, you know what, we can do better, and they're going to do better. They got a big event planned, and we'll let Chuck tell you about it tomorrow night here on the program. signing day began today for college basketball and baseball and other sports, but not including football. And Clemson's commitments are signing sometime during this early signing period. USC doesn't have any commitments yet. Don't know if they're going to get any at this particular time. Zion Williamson. There is a slam dunk competition going on in Spartanburg this evening. I think some media folks are there, and hopefully we'll get some news out of that about him as we move on through the program. Hopefully some confirmation on his supposed official visit to Clemson this coming weekend and anything else that he has to say. So that's coming down tonight, and we'll pass that on to you. This is also an SC Wild night on Sports Talk. The captain, Billy Downer, who I doubt has ever dunked a basketball, he'll be with us tonight at 7:30 to talk about the great outdoors, the cold weather, and the hunting seasons that are ongoing.
Some good hunting weather going on right now in the state, with it being as chilly as it is today.
Gotten a little nippy out there.
A little bit.
Which is nice. It's a nice change of pace for a couple of days,
No,
and then
it's
I'll be
not.
looking for 75.
You're a liar. You're a liar. It's
No,
not
he's up again.
I had my first moment of wanting to be back in Texas since I moved here to South Carolina with how
You're
badly
a
it was.
Yankee. You're from New York.
I know I
So
am.
don't cry to me about cold weather.
I lived for 3 years in a place where it never got below 60. Okay? That's what happened.
Well, you haven't heard the term yet, though. Stay in Columbia for about 10 minutes, the weather will change.
Exactly.
It will. So we got all that coming your way. If you want to join the program, 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter. And now you've got 280 characters at your disposal
Oh, God.
on Twitter at SportsTalkSC.
Tweeting that press conference was like having a huge weapon that you could never have used before.
It was weird. You know, when I've been tweeting today, I kept waiting for the numbers to start counting down after a couple of lines, and like they weren't showing up. I just kept on going. Then I finally reached about 260, and they popped up.
It's crazy.
270. All right, so there you go with what we have. Lines are open if you want to join in on the program tonight. We were over at Frank Martin today, and for his season opening press conference with the season opener coming up against Wofford on Friday. And, you know, he one thing he said, and he said it strongly, he likes his team. He says he's liked his team from the beginning. Watching them on what day did they play? Sunday. I like the parts.
Right.
You know, I like the pieces. They've got some talent. I tell you, of course, we know Silva is a proven product. They've got to shoot it better, of course. But Minaya looks good as an underage freshman. He should still be in high school.
He is a glue guy extraordinaire. He's a guy who's going to be a very big piece for them.
Hasse gave him some good minutes. That's how it's pronounced, Hasse. He gave him some good minutes inside and can shoot the outside shot.
I saw him during the summer league competition. Tremendous anticipatory passer. In fact, he threw passes where if the guy would have just filled in the gap, it would have been right there, and they would touch passes. So he thinks the game, he can invert the court for you. In other words, find cutters coming underneath the basket from the high post.
Similarly to preseason football, the way it works in the NFL, they did not want to necessarily show their cards through these two exhibitions against Erskine and against Virginia Tech. Basically, Frank Martin used these as a tutorial for his 5 freshmen who he thinks can be contributors in this upcoming season. And they're going to play a lot more inside out instead of the take 33s approach like they went through with Erskine and with Virginia Tech. So the two games that they played aren't necessarily indicative, at least according to Frank Martin, with the way they're going to play and the way that they're going to look. But the one thing that he did say that kind of struck with me is the fact that they still have a lot of growing up to do, and they're going to get a lot of road competition throughout the course of this month of November and December, where they might not win some games.
Well, just going through the pronunciation key, I guess it is, they call him KG, Gai. This is going to be important for him because every big man that's come through since Frank Martin has been here has improved every year. It'd be interesting to see how much he's improved because they're going to need him on the defensive end of the court.
Don't also underrate the fact that they have Doumbia as well.
Doumbia
can be good as well.
Doumbia. If he gets good, what a great marketing name. Enter into
the
Doumbia.
Legion of Doumbia.
Dr. Doumbia.
All right, we'll be right back. 800-956-7266. Who's first in tonight?
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Hump Day edition of Sports Talk from our studios in lovely downtown Columbia. Phil Kornbluth, Professor Tom Hayes, Will Pelagic, 800-956-7266 is our phone number. And got a lot of stuff coming your way here on Sports Talk. Make sure you stay with us. If you're in your car, you get to your location, stay with us on your phone, your laptop, your iPad. Bring us up on YouTube when you get home. The wife won't mind. Tell her, honey, go make me dinner and call me in an hour and a half, and I'll be ready to eat. That's what I would do if I were you. Hey, we're brought to you by South Carolina soybean farmers. Brought to you by South Carolina soybean farmers. I bet you a lot of soybean farmers, when they come in from the fields, walk into the house and say, woman, get me dinner.
And you hear crickets.
Presented by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. A lot of things to tell you about. First of all, we have this news out of Charleston. Citadel Athletics Director Jim Center, one of 3 finalists for the same job at UTEP. This according to a TV station report, KTSM. The AD at Northern Arizona and the senior associate AD at UTEP are the other finalists. Interviews are to begin on Monday. Bruce Pearl, Auburn men's basketball coach, according to ESPN, is refusing to cooperate in the school's internal investigation into his program.
Bold strategy, Cotton.
University officials have advised him his job is in jeopardy if he doesn't, according to those sources.
Funny how that guy continues to be embroiled in controversy, huh?
The South Carolina Football Hall of Fame announced the players who have been nominated for Player of the Year in South Carolina. You don't have to be playing in state, but you have to be from the state. So in alphabetical order, Jake Bentley, P.J. Blazejowski, quarterback at Furman, Austin Bryant, Anthony Ellis, defensive end, Charleston Southern, Kelly Bryant, Poona Ford, defensive tackle, Texas, out of Hilton Head, Darius Leonard, SC State linebacker, Sky Moore, Darian O'Daniel, Mason Rudolph, Oklahoma State QB from Northwestern, Andre Stoddard, Wofford running back, and Antonio Wilcox, running back at Furman.
Interesting.
So we'll have a voting going on for that, and they'll name the winner a little bit later on. USC's Hayden Hurst named the John Mackey tight end of the week. 93 yards receiving on 7 catches.
Last two weeks of the USC schedule, he's had the most targets thrown his way that he's had all year.
Finally. Should be.
We've only been clamoring for it all damn year.
This note concerned me from a group of very smart people that we all respect. There was a symposium at the University of Maryland.
Speak for yourself.
Featuring Bob Costas and some other big-time
Kornheiser, Wilbon.
Kornheiser. Can I ever get a story out before you jump in?
Go ahead.
Tony Kornheiser, Christine Brennan, Mike Wilbon. I think Mike Tirico was involved as well. They discussed a number of topics. The one thing that jumped out at me was a comment by Costas, of course, who has made a living off of college and pro football. And he said, quote, "The reality is that this game destroys people's brains."
Interesting.
That is how he put it. He said the decline of football, which was once, quote, a cash machine, end quote, is the most significant story in American sports. Continuing, quote, "The cracks in the foundation are there. The day-to-day issues, as serious as they may be, they may come and go, but you cannot change the nature of the game. I certainly would not let, if I had an athletically gifted 12 or 13-year-old son, I would not let him play football," end quote by Bob Costas. So, I mean, when voices like that speak, people listen. Those are loud voices.
Money's still there for players to get that. That's why I don't think football is going anywhere. Money's still too big.
Well, they went on to say that with the way football is going, it's going to be a sport primarily for the poor who want it for economic reasons to get up and out, while others will go and play other sports.
We were discussing this, and because of sort of the human nature of the beast, we gravitate toward those stories, and we forget about when you go to these universities, how many upper middle class and even rich kids play the game.
Still plenty
and
of rich
play
kids
it
playing football.
well.
Johnny
Still got to do
Manziel.
something about
The
the
helmet.
brain situation.
The helmet.
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue that. I mean, the evidence is strong. It continues to be strong, and they've got to address it. And I don't know why they're dragging their feet. I mean, it just seems to me that you sit down in a room with scientists, engineers, and doctors, and you come up with a solution.
Get rid of the helmets.
Just take them off.
One of the things you think,
Because guess what you kill without helmets? Headshots.
when in any good testing, you have a control group, correct?
Mhm.
So when you look at guys like Alan Page, who became a judge in the state of Minnesota, and all these guys who really express themselves very intelligently as announcers on TV, who are ex-pro football players and those who have done well in business, how are their brains being affected now? Don't we need to have a test group? This group, hey, there's nothing wrong with these guys, but look at this test group over here.
Mhm.
Why look at their playing careers and see how they played the game using their head versus those who may have used it too often?
Well, the problem is with the CTE, you can't find out the evidence of the CTE
Until years after.
until
You're
they're dead. Until
Yeah,
they're dead.
yeah.
And as they don't have the ability to
Mhm.
track that while
Yeah.
someone's alive. And the fact of the matter is, they'd analyze all the brains of deceased football players, and they find that
Those who have
vast,
donated.
Yeah.
find that the vast majority and like almost totality of those brains have some sort of evidence of CTE.
Well,
So it's there.
You could always see guys who are being affected. For instance, guys like Al Toon, who can't walk in a room with a ceiling fan because it throws his equilibrium off some kind of way. And then you look at Tony Dorsett, who struggled
Yeah.
with
On a
dementia
county, same
sometimes.
thing.
You know, I've talked about this for years. It's a very simple approach from somebody who's never, been in that situation. Corey Miller could better address it when he joins us if we go there. But the helmet, like you said, take the helmets off. Okay, that's fine.
Mhm.
You could go back to that. Or if you're going to keep the helmets, then you have got to add more padding on the outside and the inside. I don't care if they look like blown up marshmallows on your head. The sleekness and the good look is fine,
You're
but
just creating a bigger weapon, though.
no, not if
If they even have to look like the great, even if they look like the Great Kazoo, it's still going to be a weapon.
soft wall technology that NASCAR has applied
Mhm.
on the outside. Inside the helmet, look at what NASCAR has done to keep their drivers in the seats and to keep those necks still when the driver hits a wall at 200 miles an hour. That force, I believe, is much greater than the force of two football players hitting. And they've done a remarkable job with the Hans device and other devices of stabilizing the neck and the head. And these guys walk away from horrific crashes now time and time again. Certainly they can apply some of that science and technology to the football helmet if you're going to keep a helmet on.
And those of us who remember how tough Larry Sonka used to run over people, and the Miami Dolphins put special water bags in his helmet and filled it with water, and he ceased having those concussions.
How's his brain now?
That's the question. We don't know.
I think he's okay. I mean, I don't think he's one that has been identified as having a problem at this point.
I don't mean
got
to
no
make
knees.
I don't mean to make a cross sport comparison, but the perfect example of the helmets off situation is rugby. You never hear those guys getting head injuries.
Well, that's true, and they tackle the proper way.
Exactly.
They tackle with their shoulders. They don't lead with their head, and they don't spear and things like that, right?
And why can't we have a game that more resembles that? Because it's still the purity. It's still the same rules. It's just you're not launching with your head or launching with your shoulder.
What about, there'd have to be some sort of protection. You'd have to have something in front of the face to protect the mouth and the nose and all that kind of stuff. Would you not?
I don't think so.
You'd have something.
I think you would.
Yeah, I mean,
Because that's why they outlawed football back, I think, at the turn of the 20th
too many
century.
people were dying.
Because people were dying and people were getting ears and everything else bitten off.
Eesh. All right, we got the M&M boys coming up, so we'll discuss USC and Clemson football. Looking back and coming up, that's Sports Talk here on South Carolina Radio Network.
The big guys are up next. Corey Miller and Will M Boys. This is Sports Talk.
Indeed, it is Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, the Professor Tom Hayes, and we welcome in the M&M Boys to Sports Talk. Everybody, we're brought to you by South Carolina Electric Cooperative, the sponsor of the Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl on December 9th. Remember, tickets are still available for $15. Go to their website, touchstoneenergybowl.com. That's touchstoneenergybowl.com. And we do welcome the Pastor of Pain, former Gamecock star, Corey Miller, And the pastor of Lame, former
Wow.
former Clemson offensive lineman Will Merritt, who stands on his own merit. Will, how are you?
I'm doing good. I expect that from Corey. I did not expect that from you.
It's just off the top of my head. Just off the top of my head. Let's begin with you. Here we go again. Clemson in position to win another championship, another division, play for another ACC championship. What do you think? What do you think of the performance in Raleigh?
Well, I think anytime you go on the road and win against a top 20 team, you always chalk it up as a good win. I mean, it's kind of the beat goes on as far as Clemson beating top 25 teams. I mean, this is 9 in a row now for the Tigers, and so it's become the new norm for Clemson to be able to win at home and on the road against top 20, top 25 teams. So I think it shows well that they can have that many injuries in the secondary and still go up against a passing quarterback like Riley and come out of there with a win. So I can only say that, it's always good to win. It's always good to win on a road in an environment that is a little more hostile than having the home friendly crowd. And you look at that game in totality, Clemson did not play their best football by any means. So to come out of there with a W and have a chance to be able to hoist another trophy Saturday, what more could you ask for, at this stage of the season?
Corey, I don't know. I know you're not someone who at least rides on mental victories or moral victories, but in my mind, you really can't disparage South Carolina's effort against Georgia at all, other than the fact that they did not tackle well and they had some secondary breakdowns. Outside of that, I think they hung with Georgia for the most part. How do you feel about their performance Saturday?
No, they played hard. They played the way I thought they would play, like they always do against Georgia. They make it competitive, and they did all of that. I was kind of disappointed, just as you mentioned. The tackling was pretty bad. They took a step backwards in that department. Of course, you're going against some of the best backs, maybe the best running back tandem in the country with Sonny Michel and Nick Chubb. But they made it respectable. But you're right. I tweeted after the game. It's not about moral victories, and they hung in there. They didn't get embarrassed and all that good stuff. At the end of the day, you look at it and go, hey, have we done some things better? Maybe we could have beat the number one team in the country. And that's what they have to look at. I mean, I don't think Georgia's the number one team in the country by any stretch of the imagination. They're a really good team. They're not the best team, but South Carolina, they need to play. The offense struggled. Jake Bentley struggled. He has to play better. I'm expecting more from him at this point in time in the season, and they just didn't do that on the road. And so you lose by 14. But probably 8-9 wins, and let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Will, it's interesting. I look at this Clemson team, and they can look dominant at home, but in my mind, when I look at the body language, this particular team seems to really relish winning more on the road than they do at home. Am I wrong in saying that?
Well, I mean, I think you can read into it any way you want to. I think winning on the road always has a different taste. It always is a little bit sweeter going into somebody's house and taking something away from it. Let's make no mistake about it, guys. Dave Doran and those guys at NC State, this was their championship game. You got their very best Saturday night. You knew you were going to get it. You knew you were going to get everything. You had all the controversies that surround, the way their players were acting, the way their fans were acting, the way that Coach Doran was making accusations after the game and the referees and this and that. It's always sweeter when you get on a plane ride home knowing you left the home team with their head tucked between their legs. So I don't have a problem with them relishing and enjoying and savoring victory on the road even a little bit more than you do at home. Just at home, you have everybody pulling for you. You get the crowd involved, the emotions run higher, and people get a little bit more excited. But winning on the road, there's nothing more special than that, especially when so much is on the line.
Corey, the Gamecocks, as you alluded to and Will alluded to, losing that game to Georgia, the running game, this always mystifies me. They ran the ball so well previous 3 games and they won. And I know they were playing a much better defense, but explain to me why, from a coaching standpoint, do you just not have confidence in your offensive line when you give up on the run so quickly? Is it smart not to force the run if after a couple of series you see it's not there? mean, tell me, what are they thinking up in the booth calling the plays when they decide to pretty much just to stash the running game and just try and throw it?
Well, I'm going to say this, and I said this, shameless plug here on my radio show this morning, that, South Carolina's offense is really all over the place. The problem is they don't have an identity. They don't really know who they want to be offensively. You look at this offense, it's a spread zone type of offense. I believe you need a different quarterback to run this offense. You got to have a true dual threat guy to run the type of offense they want to run. When Jake Bentley, they let him run the ball, he pulls it, they had success running the ball. It takes away the ends from crashing. They now have to play disciplined football. They got to read. The linebackers can't go fast forward down the hill. They got to read their keys.
And I don't think they did that one time against Georgia, did they?
They did not do it one time.
Yeah. And that's my point. That's my question. That was so successful last couple of games. Where was it against Georgia?
They don't want Jake Bentley to run the football, and that's why I'm saying they need to do two things. One, they need to change his offense and just open it up and say, let Jake throw the ball all over the field. Go back, rewind the tape back to the Birmingham ball where they had about 390 yards passing, something like that, where they just threw the ball. They played behind, so they played more aggressive. The play caller was more aggressive. That's who they need to be, Phil. And then that will open up the running game. But if you're going to run a true zone read, then you need a Connor Shaw type. You need a Jalen Hurts type. You need a Kelly Bryant type of guy who may not be as efficient as a passer, but he's going to make up for that with his legs. And that's what I'm saying. Look for this to be a quarterback controversy come springtime. I'm saying it right now on your show, Phil. The Carolina Joyner is going to compete. If they're going to stay in this offense, that's the type of kid they need that can break down the defense. It's going to open up the running game because now you're going to have to pay attention to the quarterback. Right now, nobody is paying attention to Jake Bentley. Nobody is afraid of his running. Even if they give up a couple of runs, they're not afraid. They know he's not going to run it 14, 16, 18 times a game, 20 times like Kelly Bryant did the other night. They got to do something. They got to make up their mind. Either going to let him, throw it all over the place, or you're going to have to totally switch up this offense. That's the problem with the run game. That's why you see the whole inconsistency, the up and down, because they don't know who they are. They have zero identity with this offense.
Will, it might not come up this week, but how concerned are you about the defensive, at least from the secondary standpoint, the breakdowns there?
Well, I mean, obviously not having two starters killed us in the secondary. There were mental errors as much as anything. When they had to make some plays there at the end of the ball game, they did. Obviously, we had a starting wide receiver playing defensive back in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, that shows you how decimated we were at that position. Am I worried about it? Yes, I am worried about it. Am I necessarily worried about it over the next 2 weeks? Probably not, because I don't necessarily think that Blackman is the guy that's going to beat you with his arm that much. I mean, I think that he's been as inconsistent as anybody. I was really worried about it against NC State because they have such an accurate passer. You'll also be worried about it when you play South Carolina at the end of the year.
That was my next question.
I'm sorry?
That was going to be my next question. Are you worried about it against South Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the only place that South Carolina can hurt Clemson offensively is through the air. I don't think they'll have success running the ball against Clemson, but I do think that they can have success with their downfield passing game.
All right, guys, hang on, Pastor. We'll get back to you. Got to hit a break. Hang on, Will. We'll come back to you as well. We'll talk more good stuff here from the M&M boys, the Pastor of Pain, Corey Miller, and Will Merritt, who stands on his own merits, who is not lame and has no shame.
The phrase is lame, though.
The phrase is very lame.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back with more.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a Wednesday night. SC Wild coming up a little bit later on, plus more from USC and Clemson people. Brought to you by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. Will, you being a old farmer up there, you kind of like soybeans, don't you?
Yes, sir. I like anything that ends in beans.
We were literally just talking about beans during the break, about beans and chili.
Beans and chili and things like that. Guys, Florida State to Clemson, Florida to USC. Corey, weird times where those two schools are down in the dumps. South Carolina's on the rise. Clemson's in the top 4. It's just weird. It's just weird to see Florida and Florida State coming to the Palmetto State the same weekend in the situations they're in.
It really is crazy. I was thinking about that today. You know, Florida State, preseason ranked number 3 in the country, played Alabama. Big game everybody's watching. And, of course, Francois goes down in the fourth quarter, and so does the team. And they cannot recover. You know, we talked about Florida State's defense, all the front 4, all NFL guys. They got 2 or 3 secondary guys, but look like to me they've quit on the football team. Florida, all the turmoil they had, started with the credit card situation with the players, Jim McElwain now talking about false threats and things like that. And now they're in a bad situation. So you're right. But the 2 teams in our state actually doing pretty good. South Carolina 6-3 bowl eligible. Still got a chance to win the ACC and of course, hopefully get to that final playoff there. But we'll see. It's going to be fun. You know, the one thing I caution, guys, you cannot take neither one of these teams lightly because they do have talent. They recruit at a high level. Florida comes in here because they playing against Will Muschamp, their own coach. They're going to be motivated, so you got to play well. And the same thing with Clemson. I don't think it's going to be an easy game for Clemson. I think Blackman, if he stays upright, he can throw the football. They got speed on the defense side of the ball. So neither one of these games is going to be easy for the South Carolina teams, even though the records are not good. You know they have talent. They're going to play hard, so you got to be cautious when you're playing these types of football games.
Corey,
I think it's kind of week 2 a little bit. To echo what Corey said, week 2 of me sitting there looking at the lines, going, "Man, are we living in like some type of alternate universe right now?" I mean, you're talking about this is not typical, Clemson and South Carolina teams that are going to be favored this much over Florida-based teams. But it just shows you where both programs are right now. And I agree with Corey. I don't think these are going to be easy games by any stretch of the imagination, but I do believe it goes to show you where the nation feels like that the state of South Carolina is with their football programs.
Corey, you talked about the running game, and we look at in fact, one of the things that makes Turner effective when he's running the football, but he doesn't have the girth, is he hits the hole quick. I'm seeing Tyson Williams doing a little dancing now. Is it time to see, and they've used it in short yardage when they definitely need it on 3rd down, is it time to see Mon Denson get more snaps?
I like how he hits the hole better than Tyson Williams and Rico Dowdle when he was healthy. I think both those guys, Turner and Denson, they get north-south very quickly, and that's why you saw in those short yard situations with Turner giving him the football because they run harder. I don't know what it is about big guys. They want to be cute and dance around instead of just using that 228 pounds and getting downhill. But you're right in that. Use both those guys. And again, when you run this style of offense, you want quick back to make yourself stick that foot in the ground, get north-south, and get those positive yards. And I want Turner to play more. You got to mix it up, too, with some jet sweeps and things like that, just throwing some wrinkles. Will Muschamp does an outstanding job, but unfortunately, the lack of offense has followed him here. They're 100 and something I looked at the other night, and I think 114 in offense. Matter of fact, Florida's ahead of South Carolina when you're talking about total offense, which makes no sense. So they got to correct that. If they're going to be a team that competes for an SEC, they got to get more offense.
All right, last thing, guys, we'll let you go. Another ranking by the College Football Playoff Committee came out last night. Clemson remains right in there at number 4. So, Will, I'll start with you. Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson. Can Clemson beat any of the other 3 if they were paired in a game this weekend against any of the other 3?
I don't think there's any doubt they can beat them. There's no question in my mind they can beat them. I mean, I think the last 2 years have proven that. This is obviously a different team, but, everybody said, can they beat Ohio State? Can they beat Oklahoma? Can they beat Alabama? And they proved that. I don't think there's anybody out there that they can't beat. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely deserving of that top 4 spot if they go out there and win, clinch the ACC. I feel like that the ACC championship game will be theirs to go win and to continue this magical ride that they're on. This is a team that is finding their ways, different ways to win, but they're doing it with a lot of different and young guys. And I think that is exactly what you have to have down the stretch. You have to have second and third stringers to step up and make plays. You saw it against NC State. I think you'll see it down the stretch here. I don't believe this is a team that anybody wants to play right now.
Mm-hmm. Corey?
Well, I totally hate this college football playoff system. I think it's ridiculous. I think they're still using BCS metrics, and then supposedly they use the whole human element to this whole thing. And I judge losses harshly, and I'll say the same thing I've been saying. I don't think Clemson should be a top 4 football team when you lose on the road to a bad Syracuse football team. I don't think any of those one-loss teams, even Notre Dame, beating Georgia, they should not be in front of Wisconsin. And I know everybody wants to say they haven't played anybody and all of this. They play in the teams in their conference. Yes, they get the worst teams this year, but why are they not getting credit for being undefeated? I mean, how is a one-loss team in front of a team that had a loss in the Power 5 conference? That's why I'm about get back to the 18 playoff or getting to an 18 playoff. Let your Power 5 champions play and then get the 3 at large. Because right now they're showing me that there's a bunch of idiots in that room that don't have an idea what they're talking about. And there's a lot of favoritism and a lot of love and butt slapping going on. We'll be like this team and making excuses because people are hurt and all this. This is why we're not going to penalize them that much for losing. It makes zero sense to me. Mm-hmm. 0 cents. And I hope they get rid of this whole committee thing because I don't think they watch games. I really don't. So here's a laptop. Go in a room and watch as many games as you can. They have no idea what's going on. And I think they read websites and listen to Kirk Herbstreit and all these other people. I think they know everything. But Wisconsin is a great football team. There's no reason that they should be sitting there at number 8 based on the strength of schedule. I mean, come on. That's ridiculous to me. It's a good football team with a great, maybe the best running back in the country. When you're talking about running downhill and hitting yards, they got a great defense. And they play a Power 5 team for Big Ten, and you're going to tell me they haven't played anybody. So my final answer with Clemson, they should not be in the top 4. You're going to tell me by losing on the road to Syracuse. That makes 0 sense to me. And I would say the same thing if it was Alabama or anybody else.
Guys, great job. We appreciate you. Thanks for being with us tonight, Will. Talk to you next week.
Anytime, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you, Pastor Payne. Talk to you next week. Watch you on television. Listen to you on the radio.
All right, brother. 6:20 a.m. WDCV had a brother up. 9/11.
You got it. Thank you, Pastor. He's everywhere. TV, radio.
You almost get a feeling, though, that if anybody walks in a trap this weekend, it's Georgia going down.
Oh, that's not a trap.
That's not a trap. That's a legitimate football team.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's really – I think they got some traps.
Here's what worries me for South Carolina and Clemson. The teams that they are playing Saturday
have nothing to lose.
Well, this is their bowl games.
Yes.
This is – I'm sure Jimbo Fisher's telling his guys, look, this is your championship game. They had better rise to the occasion emotionally. 12 o'clock kickoff in Columbia is usually not real good for the Gamecocks because the fans are kind of sitting on their hands. The team is still a little bit on the – they're not like Missouri. Missouri likes those early kickoffs you talked about. Yeah. I don't think South Carolina responds well to the early kickoff.
I'm telling you right now, you don't think Randy Shannon's starting some guys' scholarships for next year after the way they looked the last 2 weeks? You think you bet your butt they are.
Yeah. So my point is that South Carolina and Clemson had better be prepared to get the best and rise to the occasion with these fellas.
We like the 11 a.m. kicks because it just means it gives us more time to drink after the game.
And buy basketball tickets.
True that.
Drink milk?
Yes, Cohen, we drink milk.
Yes. Okay. Hey, let's talk some hoops next hour. You let me know. Quan. Okay. Quan. Show me the Quan. All right. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. Coming down in 3, 2, 1. The early basketball signing period is underway. Clemson expects to sign at least 3, 6'7" Hunter Tyson, 6'5", 3. The early basketball signing period is underway. Clemson expects to sign 3, 6'7" Hunter Tyson, 6'5" John Newman III, and 6'11" Trey Jemison. Of course, the Tigers are hoping to land 6'6" Zion Williamson of Spartanburg. He's expected to take his official visit there this weekend. USC has no early commitments. The Gamecocks have been recruiting 6'10" Keosi Izagwu of GTA Prep in Canada. USC women are set to sign 5'6" Destiny Henderson of Lehigh Acres, Florida. On Friday, 5'11" Kristen Williams of Little Rock, Arkansas is set to announce for the Gamecocks or Connecticut. In football, offensive lineman Cade Mays of Knoxville recently decommitted from Tennessee. He'll take an official visit to Clemson next weekend. Phil Kornbluth, South Carolina Radio Network Sports.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Welcome back in, everybody. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from our Learfield studios in downtown Columbia. Good to have you along with us. Phil Kornbluth, Professor Tom Hayes, Will Pelagic here together in our studios. We're nice and warm, a little chilly out there. That means two things. Playoff football, important football, and basketball is here. And moving forward, we're going to dive more deeply into college. Did I say football? I meant college basketball. Going to dive more deeply into college basketball and give college basketball its due course here on Sports Talk. It's called Give and Go here on Sports Talk. We welcome in a pair of former hotshot guards from Clemson and USC. Let's welcome in, first of all, former Tiger Jordan Roper. Jordan, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
We are doing great. Let's welcome in former Gamecock of a few years ago, another standout guard, Aaron Lucas. Aaron, how are you?
Good evening. I'm doing well. Appreciate you guys having me.
Yes, sir. We're looking forward to spending the basketball season with you guys, breaking down the Tigers and the Gamecocks and basketball in general, getting your thoughts on your respective teams. Perhaps you'll do a little crossover and analyze the other guys' team, the respective leagues, and things of that nature. Hey, Jordan, let's start with you and Clemson opening up on Friday nights. What's your expectations for this Clemson team this year?
I expect, the transfers really come into themselves this year. Shelton, a great year, Marquise Reed and Elijah Thomas. I think those will be our, catalysts going throughout the year. They got the experience from last year, and they'll be able to step into their roles and really be leaders for us this year.
And Aaron, the Gamecocks coming off that Final Four run, so basketball at South Carolina at an all-time high interest-wise, but not much returning from that team. A lot of new faces with the Gamecocks. So what's the legitimate expectation in your eyes of this USC season?
Well, I think the expectation is to see continued growth in the program. Obviously, Final Four run is very exciting and something that we all are anticipating more of that in the future. But, when you lose, some veteran guys who help, set the foundation for Coach Martin and his staff, you look forward to seeing some of these young guys come in and buy into the process and buy into the coach and hopefully continue to take this program to the next level.
Jordan, I was at the exhibition game on Sunday, and I was very curious to kind of see what Clemson looked like. And to me, I'm curious to see where the bodies come from as far as inside on the interior, and also kind of where the scoring will come from. Where are your concerns with this Clemson basketball team going at least into this season in the non-conference and then going into the ACC schedule?
Yeah, I'd probably say, finding that consistent scorer within the bunch. But like I said, I think Marquise Reed will step nicely into that role. He's a wiry player that really can, find his shot, and he scores the ball really well. The biggest thing that I'm looking forward to see through this team and, having played for Coach Marnell, just the defensive intensity coming back and that being a main focus for the team moving forward. Really, the Clemson basketball identity is, scouting teams defensively and getting stops to win basketball games.
Now, Aaron, the Gamecocks, they've had a couple of scrimmages. They have hoisted a bunch of three-pointers in those first two exhibition games. What do you think the future is of the three-point shot with Frank Martin and this team? Are they going to try and live more with that, or do you think he'll revert to his normal coaching style, inside out, take the three after you work it inside some?
Well, I think early on it's a process of learning your guys, seeing how they react, seeing how they respond. Obviously, with a veteran like Chris Sills in the paint as well as Mike Kotsar, you have a solid foundation as far as the presence. And I think right now with some of these young guys and some of their capabilities, coming in. He wants to see, if that'll be a viable source of scoring. Obviously, when you lose Sundari Storm, you're at 21.6 points a game. You have to start replacing some of that, so it may be done by committee. But, I've seen, 34 3-point attempts averaged in the last 2 games, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously it's a lot different from what we've seen in the past couple of years from Coach Martin. But I think defense will still be the core of what Coach Martin is trying to do with his program. But obviously you have to replace a lot of scoring as well. So I think he's just trying to figure out where that's going to come from and how it's going to look.
Jordan, he's not a new recruit, but a guy who showed much promise his freshman year, but has been somewhat of an enigma the last couple of years. Can Clemson hope for a resurrection of Dante Grantham as a viable option in the front court?
I believe so. I mean, he's coming into his senior year and he'll have that experience. And I mean, I think he understands that, people have been expecting a lot from him, throughout his career, just coming off being, highly recruited talent. But I think that he understands the situation and he wants to step up and be one of the leaders for Clemson. So I think that they can expect to see, production out of him consistently this year. And he'll be able to help out other guys, experience-wise, and just being a leader, on and off the floor, hopefully. And, I think that kind of just having that senior experience really helps the other guys, younger guys, freshmen, and the whole team, move forward.
It's Give and Go on Sports Talk. Jordan Roper, Aaron Lucas joining us here as we talk hoops on Sports Talk. Aaron, looking at South Carolina, I think the key for them is the output you get from the 2 graduate transfers. Frank Booker, of course, Oklahoma, and of course coming out of Florida as well, and then Wes Myers, the guard that they got from the Northeast. The output I think that South Carolina gets from them can only strengthen them going forward, and also help strengthen the maturation process of the freshmen that they have to put in. How do you feel about those 2 guys and their contribution this season?
Well, again, I think there's obviously a learning curve with the style of play. I think some of the demands that may come from Coach Martin and the staff, but that veteran leadership and guys who have gone through the rigors of a full season and playing at different levels, seeing different competitions, they obviously bring their own experiences. So I think they'll have to come in and step in and fulfill those voids of having Dozier notice and Thornwell gone. I think they'll have to come in and fill in that void from a leadership standpoint first. And then obviously their output is going to be a big indicator of how the season is going to go early on. Obviously giving time for those talented freshmen to develop and grow and learn.
All right. Jordan, it's been a long time since the Tigers made the NCAA tournament. Do you think Coach Brownell's job is on the line going into this season related to having to make the NCAA tournament?
I think a lot of pressure is on Coach Brownell in terms of making the NCAA tournament, but I think that he's got all the pieces that he's that he's been trying to recruit and get, and he's got all those pieces this year. And I think that with the talent having experience, like I said, from the previous year, and just everything falls, all the pieces seem to be there this year, besides depth in the front court. But I think that Coach Brownell is a great coach defensively, as I said before, and I think guys they'll have a chance to definitely win every ball game that they're in.
Aaron,
and it's hard to win basketball games. It's a little different between winning and losing. So
yeah,
I think they'll make the tournament this year.
You do? You think they'll make the NCAA?
Yeah, man, I'm a Clemson Tiger. Why wouldn't I think they make the NCAA?
Aaron, how many SEC teams do you think will make the tournament? People are saying as many as 6 or 7.
I can certainly see that. When you look at what South Carolina was able to do last year, again, of course, it's a completely different team, but I think going into the season with that confidence, that's one team that should definitely be in. Obviously, Florida has always been a viable, contributor as far as getting into the NCAA tournament. Teams like Alabama out in the West, obviously, are going to come in with some firepower. So, I mean, there are a number of teams out there every year that come in and make a big splash. And, of course, with adding new players and new pieces, you never know what you're going to get. But the SEC is generally putting in, 5 to 6 teams every year.
Guys, we enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Look forward to being with you next Wednesday night. Give and Go here on Sports Talk with Jordan Roper and Aaron Lucas. We appreciate it, guys. Have a great week. Be right back.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
All right, we're back. Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Thanks again to Jordan Roper and Aaron Lucas. Give and go. Not sure which one is give, not sure which one is go. We can alternate that. They're both really, really fast. They were both really, really athletic back in their day at their respective schools.
Really, really?
Really, really. One left-handed, one right-handed. Could shoot it and could get to the rim with ease. And we appreciate them being a part of Sports Talk here during the basketball season as we do our part to help grow basketball in the state of South Carolina. Of course, Sports Talk has long been the Sports Talk show trendsetter in our state. Did you know that?
Did not.
Yeah, you learned something. Coming up in just a moment, we're going to do recruiting. Sports Talk made possible by your local electric cooperative, sponsor of this year's annual Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl, coming up on December 9th in Myrtle Beach. And to find out more about what the co-ops are doing across the state, visit ecsc.org. And again, that date, December 9th, for the Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl. Recruiting in a moment. Let's welcome in to a Sports Talk good friend, Ralph Patterson, the athletics director at Newberry College. He is at a favorite place of ours, Bar Figaro in downtown Newberry. And got something big coming up tomorrow night, don't you?
We do, but no bigger than having me have the opportunity to hang out with Coach Kornblut for a couple of minutes. I appreciate you letting me on. We do. We've got a big event tomorrow, a night with the stars. Danny Ford will be here. George Rogers will be here, and we got a lot of cool stuff going on. In fact, I wanted to tell you that we've got an auction going on, both that's online right now, and then we'll have some live auction items at the event tomorrow night. And I don't care if you're a Newberry fan or a Carolina fan or a Clemson fan, go to our website, newberrywolves.com. If you want to put in a bid for any of our auction items, just start clicking until you can figure out how to get on there. And then even tomorrow night, still, we're going to do some cool stuff. We're going to have a Dabo Sweeney and Danny Ford signed ball. Not too many folks have an autograph ball with two national championship coaches. We'll auction off a personalized autograph ball from Coach Ford. Same thing with George Rogers. And then get this, we're going to auction off 2 tickets for the Clemson-Carolina game hosted by George Rogers. You'll meet him at the statue at Williams-Brice. He'll take you down on the field, hang out on the field for a while, then go upstairs into the governor's box and sit with George and all the, you'll probably be up there, Phil. But we're going to auction that off tomorrow night at our event. And we're going to do the same thing, 2 tickets with Coach Ford. Same thing for the Clemson-Carolina game. Well, you get to sit with Coach Ford and hang out with him in a box, and that's pretty cool.
That is. Now, who at South Carolina is going to give Danny Ford a box?
Well, that's classified, actually, but it's going to happen. And we've also got a picture on our online auction right now of Danny Ford taking a knee at Williams-Brice. I think, and Phil, you know Mike Hold, who's executive director of our athletic club, and that year, the picture of Coach Ford kneeling at Williams-Brice is a picture that Clemson defeated Mike Hold's Gamecocks, and that's another autograph photo that's on our online auction right now. So some pretty cool stuff.
Have you got a picture of Mike Hold tossing the ball to William Perry after scoring the winning touchdown up in Death Valley? You got that one?
Picture. I would love to have that picture. I don't have that.
I'm sure that George has got a copy of it somewhere. I doubt Danny
does. And Mike does have a photo that's signed by Coach Ford of Danny Ford kind of hugging Mike after the game, and which Mike said that's one of his really treasured mementos from his playing days.
Yeah, I bet. Hey, it sounds like a ton of fun. Where's it going to be?
It's going to be on Newberry's campus, actually at the Center for Teacher Education. And if anybody is interested in joining us, it's $100 a person. Have a nice dinner, adult beverages. It's going to be really nice. All the auction stuff that we're going to do. And if you can't make it, you want to get into our online auction. If you go to our website, there's a big post there about it, and you click in the right places, you can sign up for the online auction and get after it.
Hey, sounds great. Good luck. I know you're going to have a great time. You'll have no trouble attracting people with those two there tomorrow night. So raise a lot of money and raise a lot of heck and have a great time.
We're going to have fun. Wish you could join us, Bill, but thanks for giving us an opportunity to spread some cheer, and I'm proud to be a Newberry Wolf. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The coach, Ralph Patterson, with us here on Sports Talk. All right, let me do recruiting. Got a lot of stuff. I just talked with Todd Summers of WSPA TV, or we text each other, of WSPA TV Channel 7 up in Spartanburg, who talked with Zion Williamson tonight, did a sit-down interview. He'll have that interview on the Sportscast up there tonight and on their website. He also talked to his stepdad, and the stepdad, Lee Anderson, told Summers that Williamson is not taking an official visit to Clemson this weekend, but will be there either Friday for basketball or Saturday for football. He also said they've not yet decided if Williamson will sign this week. So the drama continues to build.
Intrigue.
On to other stuff. Besides that, Clemson is going to sign 3 others. 6'7" Hunter Tyson, Monroe, North Carolina. 6'5" John Newman III, Greensboro, North Carolina. 6'11" Trey Jemison of Hoover, Alabama. And, of course, that leaves Brownell with 1 spot left in the class. Now, Jemison is an interesting prospect. Chose Clemson over Georgia Tech primarily, also Alabama, Auburn, Harvard, Oklahoma State, Vanderbilt, and Texas A&M. His coach, Charles Burkett, told us he's a very mature kid, a great knowledge of the game, plays hard all the time, can be a back-to-the-basket post player, but can also drift outside and knock down the 15 to 17-foot jump shot. No public commitments for USC men as the signing period begins. It appears the Gamecocks' best opportunity to sign a player early is 6'10" Casey Izagwu, GTA prep in Canada. Hard to get information on him. They're very tight-lipped up there. He unofficially visited with his team late last month. USC's been up there to see him multiple times. Technically, the Gamecocks are involved with Williamson, who took an unofficial visit in September. There's been few indicators in their favor, but who knows what Zion Williamson is going to do. USC women are set to sign 5'6" Destiny Henderson of Lehigh Lakes, Florida, and Dawn Staley is waiting on the decision Friday from 5'11" Kristen Williams of Little Rock, Arkansas. She's down to the Gamecocks and Connecticut. College of Charleston signed 6'6" Quan McClooney out of Gastonia, North Carolina, and 6'9" Isaiah Moore out of Sumter. That program is on the rise. Football, offensive lineman Cade Mays of Knoxville, who announced a decommitment from Tennessee last night. And, of course, now he is exploring his other options. He's going to Ohio State for an official visit this weekend. He was at Georgia unofficially for the game last Saturday. He will be going to Clemson officially November 17th. He was at Clemson a couple of weeks ago unofficially. He'll take his official to Tennessee November 24th. Clemson is continuing to push hard for him. He plans to sign December 20th and enroll at his school in January. No indication of a favorite at this point. Also, back to basketball, 2019 6'3" Trey McGowan of Hargrave Prep in Virginia going to take an official visit to Clemson this weekend. He picked up recent offers from NC State and St. John's. He said Clemson is also talking with him about going back to the 2018 class and coming in the 2018 class. He reclassified for 2019 and went to prep, so I guess he could go back to 2018 if he so desires. We'll see how that plays out. All right, there you go with recruiting here on Sports Talk. Check it out on our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter, use the hashtag #STRecruiting. We have, of course, coming up next, SC Wild here on Sports Talk. We'll be right back.
It's time to get wild with SC Wild. Everything hunting and fishing from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and your host, Phil Kornblut. SC Wild on Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
It is time for another edition of SC Wild, starring the captain, Billy Downer. You won't mind if I mention one quick little recruiting thing that's very important.
As long as it's not against the Citadel, go ahead.
It's not against the Citadel. This was just brought to my attention by the pro. USC women did get a commitment today from 6'1" Victoria Saxton out of Rome, Georgia. She is considered a 5-star player. She's considered to be a very, very good big-time player by those who rate women's basketball players. So 6'1" Victoria Saxton. This is being reported by a basketball website that South Carolina has picked up. A Swish Appeal is the name of the website. And it says South Carolina has gotten a commitment from her. All right, thank you, Captain. I know you're into women's sports because you have a daughter who was a very good athlete in high school.
Yes.
Softball, volleyball, right?
Yep.
So you're into what the young ladies are doing, and that's
Absolutely.
important. It's good to have you with us, and we've got a lot to talk about now. And I got two things I want to bring up real quick before we get to the topics of the day. Number one, saw a story about bear hunting in the upstate, and that the upstate has been overrun with bears, and this one hunter took a bear of like 530 some odd pounds. I think it was in Pickens County. Did you see that?
I did not, but it does not surprise me. Pickens County is one of the mountain hunt areas, and they do have some large bear. 500-pound bear is a nice size bear, no doubt about it. And absolutely, there are those size animals out there. So I have not heard specifically about that, but I'll check on it.
Yeah. Now, are we having an issue up there with the number?
No, again, that's the area traditionally where bears have always been in the mountain region. They're traditionally in the mountains. The areas where it's surprising is down in Williamsburg County, Marion County, onto the coast, Georgetown, Horry County, where we are in some areas it seems like overrun with bear. Not overrun, but just a lot of bear. You don't expect to see bears there. So if you see a bear, it seems like you're being overrun.
Yeah.
The mountains are where you expect to see them. There are areas certainly up there as we move to the mountains. We'll have mountain houses where they see bears more than they used to. But again, that's normal.
If you're driving up a mountain road in Pickens County or up that way, say up US 25.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
And a bear crosses in front of you. You've got time to stop, but he doesn't continue across the road. Maybe he turns and looks at you in your car, maybe starts coming towards you.
Don't make this into a grizzly incident. Here we go.
No, I'm just asking a question.
Already victimizing the bear, making him the evil guy.
Well, would he come at? Would a black bear come at you?
No, they're gonna run.
Okay.
Black bear are exactly like a white-tailed deer. They run. Their first instinct is to run.
Okay.
So
It's not a grizzly situation, Corn.
No, it's not a grizzly bear. It comes attacking, snarling, all those
Foaming
things.
in the mouth.
The bear is more afraid of you than you are of it.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
You really think so?
Absolutely.
All right. My second question is, I'm sure you're familiar with this. Off the coast down, I think in the Beaufort area, they tagged a tiger shark.
Tiger shark, 12 foot long.
Tell me about that. And she's pregnant?
I can't remember.
No, it said she's pregnant.
She might be.
Yeah.
Might be. That's not unusual.
Yeah. So
tiger shark, remember we had a segment, we talked about that during Shark Week. We talked about the tagging that we've been doing in South Carolina. Tigers are the main species of shark we've been tagging, along with a lot of other smaller species, little known species, but as well as the great whites. Everybody wants to know about the great white. Where's that big 20-footer off South Carolina they've got tagged? But again, this is a satellite tracking system, so they can actually see where this tiger's at. But pretty nice size tiger. I think she weighed 900 pounds.
Yeah. And the story said like she could give birth to like 60 little baby sharks.
Possibly.
That's just great.
Normal.
Great.
That's part of life. It's part of nature.
Circle of life, Corn.
The circle of life.
Let's get to some freshwater stuff.
Speaking
What's
of
happening out there in
fishing,
the
let's talk about
fresh
fishing for a
water?
minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no sharks in fresh water, right?
No, there's not. No, not well.
Huh?
Actually, the bull shark
Oh,
can survive in fresh water and
Yeah,
does
that's right.
come in on the
Mhm.
Santee River Basin.
Yeah.
And yes, Edison River as well. So.
okay. I'm sorry I brought it up.
Yeah, you don't want to know about
But the
it.
bull shark, like the black bear, is more afraid of you than you are of it.
I don't think so.
So much.
I think you should have stuck
No,
with the
somebody
bear.
got it. There you go.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
All right,
Captain.
so my report from Clarks Hill, Lake Greenwood crappie are off the chart. Said they are catching limits of crappie. Of course, the limit is 8 inches for a minimum size limit, and catch limit is 20. So fishermen are having great luck using jigs on a spider rig. Spider rigs where you lay all those rods out in the front of the boat. Basically looks like a big spider. And they're using a slow troll. Tipping is also popular. Tipping is where you take the jig and actually hook a minnow on the edge on the jig hook for extra attractant, for a little shine, a little flash, little live bait action there. Also, stripers and hybrids are still strong on live bait, blueback herring on Clarks Hill and Lake Murray. And that's our freshwater report for today, mostly in the Midlands and upstate area. Saltwater fishing report. Speckled trout bite slowed a bit. It was on fire the last couple of weeks, slowed down with the warm weather. Charleston area, First Sergeant Greg Gardner, my buddy there, has been giving you some updates there. He expects the bite to pick up this weekend as this cold front comes in. You know, we're looking at temperatures in the upper 30s again come Saturday, Sunday. As that colder weather comes in, the trout bite will pick up. Redfish continues to be good. Spot-tail bass continues to be well. Good bite there. Flounder gigging is also good this time of year. Very fat fish, good-sized fish. Remember, gigging closes for trout and redfish from December through February. So this month's the last month. For a while, you could gig trout and redfish. Sheephead still good on the jetties, nearshore reefs where weather permits. Shrimp baiting season closed yesterday.
That's a disappointment to a lot of people.
Yeah, and it wasn't. And speaking of shrimp season, it wasn't as good a season for a lot of people. It seemed to be spotty at best. They said smaller shrimp when they did catch them. Just depends year in, year out. We had a hurricane, a lot of rain. Rain messes up saltwater for shrimp. So I've heard a little bit about that. The red snapper, we had a mini season. Red snapper's been closed for a while now. Could not catch a red snapper offshore. It was illegal to possess one. We had a mini season open this past Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Talked to one of my church members that did that this past Sunday, did well. They all caught their one. You can catch one during this mini season. There's no minimum size. They also caught some nice vermilion snapper and grouper in 90 to 120 feet of water off the coast of South Carolina. There's one more mini season for red snapper coming up this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But Lieutenant Angus McBride told me, tell mariners beware northeaster this weekend. Northeaster means it's coming off the coast which is horrible for big waves, very rough,
windy,
choppy, chilly. Very bad. Yes. You're going to have high waves. So be careful, pay close attention to wind and sea conditions. If you decide to go out, make sure to watch the forecast. And if you decide to go, fill a float plan out. Remember, your float plan tells people where you're going, exactly where you're going, where you're leaving from, and when you plan to return, so that folks know when you should be back in case there's a problem. Not
too dissimilar to the hunt plan that you talked about last time.
Plan your hunt your plan, plan your fishing trip, fish your plan. Don't vary from it. Let people know where you're going, particularly in rough weather like this. If it's going to be rough or is an opportunity for bad weather offshore, in the saltwater environment, particularly when you're going off several miles off, you want to let people know where you're going, where you put in from, so if there's a problem, they know where to find you.
This is SC Wild on Sports Talk. If you have a question for the captain, you can give us a call, 800-956-7266. You can also reach us on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. Quick comment or question there. We'll be happy to address and pass it on to the captain. Email us as well, comment or question at SportsTalkSC. Is how you can talk back at SportsTalkSC.com. Talk back at SportsTalkSC.com. Coming up in our second segment, we'll talk some deer hunting, deer scoring, and things of that nature. But sticking with the fishing, so as the weather turns on us here and we start to get chillier, how much does the fishing activity by fishermen decline? Do you see a great drop off? Is it like, okay, our season's over, we'll just wait till the spring? Or do you find people hardy enough to want to get out there and fight the elements and go after the fish that are still out there?
That's a great question. The type of fish people go after changes in the colder weather. This time of year, when it gets colder, stripers start schooling in October, November. People are going after stripers. So they go out there in the cold weather despite the cold weather. Crappie fishing picks up this time of year. People go out. Turn of the year, January, February, people are going after white bass where they can find them still. They'll be out there in a full heater suit in the boat with their gloves on trying to catch a white bass.
All right, hang on. We'll be right back. More SC Wild on Sports Talk.
It's time to get wild with SC Wild. Everything hunting and fishing from the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources and your host, Phil Kornblut. SC Wild on Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
And we're back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. On a Wednesday night, SC Wild ongoing. Captain Billy Downer is with us. 800-956-7266 is the number. Call lines are open for you if you want to join us. Let's go to Seth in Edgefield's got a question for Captain Downer. Seth, welcome in.
Phil and Captain Downer, good evening. How are you?
Good. What's your question?
My question is how much or, if any, damage was done to the coastal WMA waterfowl impoundments from the hurricane?
That's a good question. You know, last year we got hit by Hurricane Matthew, and we had some significant damage in a couple of dikes. Some of those damaged areas are still trying to be repaired. And in any situation, we're waiting on folks that can do that kind of work. I know that some contracts have been awarded, and some of that damage has not been fixed yet. And anytime on the coast, we talked about this last year, there's damage on a dike where there's a tide going in and out. Anytime that hole is still there, there's always damage occurring as the tide goes in and out. I know that we had, Hurricane Irma, some influx of water there. Not sure that it caused any more damage than we already had. Certainly there was some damage there, but I do know this. Our wildlife folks are on top of that. They are doing everything they can to preserve those those waterfowl impoundments, because as we all know, those are key to our waterfowl season on the coast. So that was a good question. We are keeping an eye on that. There are some holes that are still waiting to be filled in. It takes a lot of work with some very specialized equipment, and we've got those. I know those contracts in some cases have been awarded, so they're working on that now. A great question.
And the thing is, I mean,
Mother Nature is a beast.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you can work, get it rebuilt, be good for a couple of 2-3 years. Here comes another big storm.
That's right.
I mean, you can't stop it from being washed away again.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're working on that, and it's important to keep up with these dikes, because those waterfowl impoundments are important to our wintering waterfowl when they come down here. So very important to the DNR as well. Let's talk about deer racks for a minute.
Yeah, what'd you bring us here?
I've got a very nice specimen here.
Yeah.
You can see this on SportsTalkSC.com.
On radio, you can't see this.
But on our video webcast, they can see it.
Yeah, put it up there.
A nice right here. This is going to be, you're going to count this, Phil, okay? You count with me.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
9 point.
Nice 9 point.
Why is it not an even number?
It's a mainframe 8.
Why is it not an even number?
Because Mother Nature made him that way. God made him that way, Phil.
Well, he left off a point.
Oh, he's got 9
He missed
points.
the point. He missed the point.
Nice deer taken by a young man in Clarendon County. A little shout out here to Clayton Lee.
Let me ask you a question real quick.
13. Phil, this is important.
Okay.
Age 13.
Uh-huh.
Age 13. Took this nice deer. This is nicer than most men will see in their lifetime sometimes.
That is impressive. What makes the rack?
What makes the rack?
Yeah. I mean, what in the deer grows the rack? What is that made of?
This is bone. It's bone.
It's bone.
It's bone. But
Okay.
it falls off at the end in January, February, it will fall off.
Okay.
Unlike horns, which are like your fingernails.
Okay.
On a bull or something that has horns all the time. Deer grows their rack every year and drops it off. And they grow bigger each and every year until the point where they get old enough that they lose that.
I would have thought that horns would be more durable instead of antlers.
Well, and of course, these are used for defending their territory.
Yes.
For fighting off
speaking
other
to the
bucks,
mic there.
fighting off other bucks.
Yeah.
So this is a very nice rack. Most sportsmen, when it gets into deer hunting, they want to kill a deer or take a deer with a nice rack, with a nice set of antlers. And so they want to know what their buck's antlers score. Sometimes it just goes south in the conversation.
It's the producers. Producers always make
the guy behind you.
Yeah.
The guy behind you.
Brian's back there. He's about to fall over. He's his mind. Who knows where his mind is? But go ahead.
I know where
we're talking deer rack here.
The deer antler scoring system, which is known as the Boone and Crockett system.
Yes.
Okay.
Boone and Crockett system basically set up a set of rules from Boone and Crockett Club to score antlers. And it has to do with a lot of factors. Width, how far between the spread, minimum spread between inside spread on your deer antlers, as well as your length of tines. You see these tines here, the length of tines going out from your what you call your G1 or your brow tines to your G2s. G2s are typically your tallest tine. That's that first one out, and you see how tall and predominant it is.
Yes.
The length of these is how you score. So every inch matters. It's scored in inches. You total all these things up. You've got nice brow tines. Height on brow tines matters. The circumference around the bases, the measurements in here, the minimum circumference between each point becomes a measurement. All these things add up to inches, basically. And to make the South Carolina State record book, you need to score a 125. So
how much is the one in your hand?
Inches. The one I'm holding here, which is a very impressive deer. This was a 4.5-year-old deer. A good example of a 4.5-year-old deer. Yet his gross score, gross being total points when you add everything up, you have to add all these points up, was around right at 121 and 7/8. But he had deductions based on differences. Any difference in the rack between this point to this point. See how tall G3 is very short, 1.5 inches. This one's.
Why has one grown longer than the other? Just the way it is.
It could be the way it is. It could be that during the time when he was growing this antler, when it was in velvet, he may have damaged it. He may have hit it on a limb, bruised it, something. A lot of times you'll see them broke off. They'll break those when they're soft, when they're growing.
So a lot of this stuff is beyond your control.
It could be. It could be damage to the left side of his body. A lot of times you'll see deer, the left side, they've been injured, the right side antler
doesn't grow as much.
Will have a problem.
Gotcha.
Or be short. It's just interesting how it all ends out. But when it comes to deer scoring, everybody wants to know that big. They want to have that big antler spread. They want to see long tines. But the thing that makes the points for you is your circumference. The mass of an antler is important. Of course, if you get a 10-point, that's more points that you can score.
Sure.
This is an 8-point. He's got 1 point very short. But this rack right here that Clayton got, very nice deer, 121 and 7/8 gross, but with deductions went down to 114.
So he did not make the cutoff.
It would not make the state book.
Yeah.
It's still a very impressive deer.
Sure.
What I can tell you is every year at the Classic in Columbia, we have our biologists, technicians are out there, and they score. They are Boone and Crockett certified. They're scoring antlers. Guys are bringing in antler sheds. They're bringing in their mounted deer to get the antlers scored. And you see some really impressive deer that don't make the book. This is an impressive deer. This is a quality deer. This young man did a very, he took a deer that he should be very proud of. Again, a lot of hunters don't see a deer this big in their lifetime.
Probably should say was a quality deer.
Still is a quality deer.
Can you yourself score or no?
I can score. I am not an official
I
scorer,
just got to say,
but I have helped out a lot.
That
so
is,
I know the
that
basics.
is some rack you got there, my man. Some rack. You want to give us the safety thought of the day?
The safety tip for today, remember, when you're leaving the deer stand, use a flashlight. Don't walk out in the dark too many times. Other hunters sitting will confuse or they see movement. They make a mistake. Use a flashlight. Let people know exactly who you are. It's your flashlight walking. That's not a deer.
Have we been pretty safe so far this year in the States?
We've had some accidents, had some tree stand falls this past weekend.
Ooh.
Remember, tree stands are one of our biggest accidents when deer hunting because people like to hunt from elevated positions.
I feel like I learned something this week.
That's very educational.
I was very, very enriched.
Well, and this guy right here is really into racks, so I think you probably caught his interest. Deer racks we're talking about, of course.
Again, another shout out, Clayton Lee. Good job, nice deer.
Nice job.
I liked it. I liked the rack.
You're back next week.
We are.
Yes.
2 in a row.
Can't wait.
Love it.
Be back next week. Thank you, Captain. Great job as always.
Hopefully we'll talk about something besides.
I want you to go into oyster harvesting on one of these. You do that?
We can do that.
Ain't nothing this man can't go into.
I love oysters.
Thank you, Brian. Great job. Thank you, Willie P. Thank you, Captain. Have a great night, everybody. Back at you tomorrow night right here on Sports Talk for SC Wild. We'll see you then.